heart. A lot of those places that you saw in this last film is I've walked along those streams and rivers and been to St. Louis area and hiked around Mount Edgecombe, and the beauty that you saw is dear to my heart. So it's where I live. I've lived there 12 years, and Ben Hamilton, the filmmaker, is actually in San Antonio with his 2 kids. I really begged him to come to be here tonight. He's a good friend, and he apologizes. He hopes you enjoyed the film, and if you have any questions about Alaska or Sitka, I'm happy to chat about it with any of you after this Q&A. We are very fortunate, though, to have the director and the filmmaker for the first film that we saw that was glorious about the Great Barrier Reef. So beautiful, Angela. Angela Sun, why don't you come on up? Love to hear more about your spectacular film. Thank you so much for being here. I just loved how you shot the film, what you shared with us, and this restoration project is fascinating. How they take rebar, what it looks like is rebar.
It is, yes.
And then the underwater photography was exquisite.
Oh, thank you. That was actually, I have to give major props to my DP who, he lives up in Cairns and he's local, and they do call it Cairns, not Cairns, as we tend to mispronounce it, but he lives up in Cairns in tropical North Queensland, and he just knows that area so well and had some amazing footage, because we missed the coral spawn, so I had to fly back, and you know, nature doesn't wait for you. She's on her own course, and so clearly, so that footage, that's his footage, so yeah.
So have you yet to see the spawn?
I have yet to see the spawn.
So you might have to go back.
I know, it's really crazy how it works, and even learning about the spawn in different places, like the other films, just how wild nature is. She's really not on a course of ours, right? Like, we're just guests in Mother Nature.
I thought that was a great connection between your film and the Sitka film, what Ben shot, because he was waiting. Same thing, he's waiting for the herring to spawn, and then finally, it happens, and he got to witness it and film it so beautifully.
It was so beautifully shot. I was wondering, my question if you talked to him is, there's beautiful shots of him holding his camera, and I know he's shooting all the macro and the close-ups, but I'm like, who's shooting him?
That's right. Who was shooting Ben? I'm actually not sure. I'll have to ask him that. I think it was a friend of his who's done some film work. I think was there part of the summer to help him with some of those shots, but most of it was his hands. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So the diving part, did you get a lot of training to be able to do the work you were doing in the scuba diving? Is that
so? Funny enough, I actually, it kind of comes full circle, and I know there's a couple students in the room. I was a student, and I studied abroad at University of New South Wales in Sydney, and I got my dive certification down in Sydney, and I've always been fascinated by the Great Barrier Reef and heard about it. It's like 7 wonders of the world. I really want to go see this crazy thing, and so I did some research up in Lady Elliot Island during that time, and that was like the 35mm film. You have to like take the picture, go bring it to the photo place, develop it, wait 7 days, get your picture back. So I have like these pictures of me on this, at the Great Barrier Reef, and full circle coming back around to 24 years later, 25 years later, back and having that opportunity was one of the coolest things, because I think like in life, like you kind of just have to run with it when the opportunity presents itself. And so it was interesting. We were there for a different trip and a different reason, and I kind of piggybacked on that trip and was like, well, I was taking my toddler to Bluey's World. It was Bluey the dog.
Connection.
Yes. So Bluey, he's famous, and so we went to Brisbane to go and check out Bluey's World. And so I was there. I was like, I'm not taking a toddler to Australia, not like, just going for 5 days. I got to go for longer. So I was like, how do I do this project that I've wanted to do for so long? And I read this book when I was at uni at New South Wales 25 years ago. And it was called Why Weren't We Told? And it was studying sociology, so it was about the Aboriginal residential schools and what was going on with the stolen lands. And I was always fascinated by that, but I was like, how do it was just the perfect way to tie it all together, to tie these Indigenous voices and also this magnificent natural wonder of the world together, and it sort of all came together when I met the great GBR biology group and Great Barrier Reef Foundation, all these cool foundations working together to try to mitigate and figure out what we're doing with our warming seas and coral bleaching and everything going on. So, I mean, I wish I had more time. I wanted to explore that more. I wanted to follow Abby home. I wanted to get more of Dustin's story. But like, we did what we could with the time, and so he's not here, but my husband did take care of the little guy while I was out shooting, so gotta give him props. But you know, I think that it always takes a village in creating these films and these stories, but I think there's so many more stories to tell and unique stories, especially of Indigenous voices. Like the Arctic voices were so neat to see that, because there's not that many platforms that allow that, so it's really great that AmDocs has you know, been able to showcase these great films, and I loved all of them. I've been very excited and definitely exceeded my expectations, as I'm sure you guys do.
Yeah, oh, and it just was a great connection, all three films too, to, like you say, the Arctic Voices was beautifully done, going, and I love the way they did the graphics on
Yeah,
the
so you
map.
kinda like know where you're going up there.
You knew with each little village and what they're experiencing, you know, from the loss of,
Rising seas.
rising sea, loss of home, you know, and homes
And then
crumbling into the sea, and this is really truly happening,
Yeah.
happening in Alaska where I live. We're getting the warming 4 times as much as anywhere else in the world when you get up in the Arctic region. So you've got houses that have to be moved and things crumbling into the sea, and this is something that we're living, you know, each year. It gets worse, the ice recedes farther and farther towards the North Pole, so polar bears have to swim farther, and walrus can't find haulouts, and it's a really rough time for animals that depend on sea ice. And then the native people that just depend on the animals that are trying to go out and hunt those animals, then they can't access the walrus or whatever species that they're going for. So tough times.
Yeah.
And very true about the salmon. That part is really happening all over Alaska. We have an abundance of salmon in southeast Alaska. And like you said, I think, what was it, 15 million or something salmon that spawn in southeast Alaska, all those clear, pristine rivers and streams. But that's not true as you get farther north up in the Yukon area. The water temperatures are changing. There's issues with bycatch, with the trawlers in the Bering Sea that are catching pollock, which is the fish that you buy when you buy fish sticks. And, you know, or you get fish sandwiches at McDonald's, the little white fish. That's the biggest fishery in the world, and they catch millions and millions of tons of it, and with these huge factory trawler ships. And when they do that, they catch other species, like millions of salmon that get thrown away as trash. So it's a real huge problem, and I think there's more awareness now. There was a great movie that came out, another one of our favorite, David Attenborough's Ocean.
Oh yeah, but the
The Trawling, which is probably the best film I've seen on that, and how it is affecting so many species that get caught in these massive nets that are the size of 4 football fields. They're
like
just
scraping
massive.
the ocean with like a giant rake.
Yeah, and they drag those nets, across the bottom of the ocean. They say they keep them up, but then they fall down, and then they drag everything up with them, and it affects a lot of creatures that are not the pollock. That's what they're going for. So it does affect the salmon on the Yukon, and the people have not been able to fish the Yukon. The native people for 4 or 5 years, they've not been able to put in their fish wheels, their nets. And,
I mean, I think the thing that I felt like was a through line through all 3 films was the story of really these Indigenous voices, these people who have been stewards of the land for, in Australia, 60,000 years. And they had this knowledge that we could use if you couple it with modern science and work together, versus like seeing modern science, or not modern science, but modernization today, seeing it as a threat, or I don't know, like I just feel like that there's gotta be a bridge, like he was saying, Dustin was saying, my film, bridge of caring and a bridge of understanding. But even in other nature documentaries that I've seen, Like, what works is leaning into that native knowledge and understanding of stewardship and land stewardship or sea stewardship, and, you know, basing your science and your research around that versus the other way around, like, we're the Western scientists and we're gonna come and tell you how to do it, you know?
Exactly.
Incorporating that and not cultural exploitation or appropriation, but like appreciating and respecting that culture. And I noticed that too in the change with the 25 years difference from being in Australia 25 years ago to now, that they always, every meeting they open with, we wanna acknowledge we're on this type of land of these peoples, and there's so many different groups, so whatever, you know, let's say a city council meeting, or not even city council, but just like any party you go to, like, we're like, we wanna acknowledge we're standing on these people's lands, and then they start into whatever it is. And I thought that was really interesting, because we have a far way to go, like, we're not doing that, you
Yeah,
know?
and actually, you're reminding me that usually we do that,
Oh,
and I don't think we've been a little negligent this year, but we are standing
Oh,
on the
yeah,
lands of the Agua Caliente,
yeah, that's right.
of the Chichilla. I say it wrong.
Cahuilla.
Thank you. So, yes, and we should, you know, be always aware of that. This is
Yeah.
their homeland, and where I live, it's Tlingit people
Mhm.
that have been there for 10,000 or more years. And they still do the same thing they did 10,000 years ago. They gather spruce branches,
Mhm.
they stick the spruce branches in the water around their homes where they live, and the herring come in and they lay eggs on their spruce branches. And then they just pick them off the branches, and this is one of the delicacies for the Tlingit
Caviar.
people, the caviar,
Yeah.
the real fresh caviar
Yeah.
right off the branches.
Amazing.
Yeah, so. Questions from the audience, we're just babbling away up here, because it's all three films were so wonderful, and yes.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I know you didn't actually see the spawning, but I wondered when they spawn, they're in a laboratory, they're in an artificial environment. Do they try to start them out in an artificial environment to strengthen them and then put them back in the sea? Do you know?
So they basically, during that moon cycle, which is around November-ish, it's very strange how it's just like every year it's on the dot, you know, so around November-ish time, they will take reef recruits, they took, you know, they'll study a reef, and then they'll see that like the little eggs are forming or whatnot, and then you saw how they kind of knocked it off and they took a couple of them from a reef and then put it in the lab, and then they create the environment of night, but I think they do night and day to make sure it's basically the same as outside, but it's more controlled. And then they kind of just wait whichever day the coral decides to do it. But it is very weird that it is specifically 3 to 7 days. You know, it's like not on the first day, not on the second day, 3 to 7 days. Like, and it's got to be on the full moon, after the full moon, and so it's interesting how nature gives you these clues, and you just kind of like stay in the parameters, and then you'll get the results. So I don't know that it's to strengthen them, but it's more to gather them and then putting the bundles together. I learned a lot about coral polyps, and it's kind of just like a big orgy in the sea is what happens, but what they're doing is like helping this super party go on, you know, in the lab setting. And so when they do this coral IVF, or mating the bundles together, then when they take it to the different reefs, because some of the reefs are lacking of these ripe corals, but I did ask them afterwards, they do put them back, and I was like, I think they glue it back on the reef, but they do bring those big pieces back. Yeah, they don't like leave them they don't leave them in the lab.
And the structures though, the rebar structures,
Yeah.
they all stay, and then they get totally overgrown, because you had
Yes.
a wonderful underwater shot of that.
Yeah, so it's crazy how quickly they grew. I was very surprised. And they try to put a variety of different corals, so it's not just like one species, but to have a big variety, and it works nicely as a barrier. They've done it in Indonesia. Interesting enough, I didn't really go into that detail in the film, but it's from the Mars, like the candy bar company. So Mars Candy Bar Company created this idea of these Mars stars, that's why it's called that. They started that in Indonesia. I have feelings about that, because they still have plastic wrapped candy that they're, you know, selling junk food to people all around the world. But at least like in this part of the conservation or this arm of their company, that at least they're doing something for people. And so it's worked in Indonesia, they've tried in Hawaii as well, but really kind of creating these artificial reefs, but in a very simple way with that rebar and limestone coating.
Brilliant. Other questions? Yes.
Could you just put on your travel agent hat for a minute? And for those of us who've never been to Australia, and we can probably only go once in our lifetime at this point, what would you recommend for a user-friendly way to see the Great Barrier Reef?
Well, funny you ask, because I just got back from Australia, like 2 weeks ago. A girlfriend of mine wanted to go, it was a big bucket list trip, her husband and kids didn't want to go, so he said, take a friend. So she was like, you want to go? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to go. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, let me, like, help travel agent, like, what do you know, what are the things that you want to check out? And she wanted to check out the reef. And I was like, okay, well, most places to bounce on the reef, you have to take a puddle jumper. So you can either go to the southern end, which is Lady Elliot Island, it's more eco-resort-ish. I've gone to all of these places, so I could kind of speak to them. We went to Hamilton Island, which you can fly direct to from Sydney or from one of the major hubs. You can fly from Brisbane or Cairns. I mean, you don't want to fly to Cairns, so you fly from Brisbane or Sydney up to Hamilton, and that lands you in the Whitsundays, which is the middle part of the reef. But even from Hamilton Island, you need to take a 2-hour boat ride to go get out to the outer reef. And then you can fly from Sydney to Cairns. There's no direct flights internationally to Cairns or Brisbane to Cairns. And from there, you do have to take a 2.5, 3-hour ride out to the reef. So it's a long trip out to the outer reef to be able to like see what you want to see and the beauty of it all. But what I would suggest is do a live aboard. So if you were planning a trip to Australia, if you have time and if you want to do that and you're scuba certified or want to get scuba certified, they have those. Otherwise, if you want to have an intro version, I think Hamilton Island is a good spot because you fly right in. That's what we did with my friend, and she doesn't dive, she wants to snorkel and check stuff out. It's beautiful, and they've got that little Whitehaven Beach and all these different spots, but it's very user friendly. So there's like accommodation for couples or adults only, or like kids friendly or multi-gen or whatever it is. So there's something for everybody there, and it's like a golf cart island only. So it's really nice, and just you have all the amenities that you want, but you can also get out to the reef for one of the days. The other one would be to fly to Brisbane and then drive, I believe fly to Brisbane or fly to Bundaberg, which is where the Bundaberg rum is from. And
ginger beer.
And ginger beer, that's right, and that's the ginger beer. And so that's what we did 25 years ago, and Lady Elliot Island is this eco resort, and it's the only one, it's a small tiny atoll. I spent 7 days there doing research or collecting research and data on crown of thorns starfish with my class. And now you can puddle jump from Sydney to Bundaberg straight, I believe. Then you take another puddle jumper, or Brisbane, then take another puddle jumper over to Lady Elliot. Now that you could like walk out and then snorkel and see manta rays and turtles and whatnot. So it kind of it depends on what kind of, do you want to see pelagic creatures, do you want to see little creatures, do you just want to see coral? And I'm happy to help, guide you in which way. But yeah, we did Hamilton.
Expert right here.
We did Hamilton
Coral
recently.
reef. We're gonna put you in charge of tourism to the coral reef.
Well, the funny thing is that, I just love Australia, and tourism, Queensland actually brought us over for that Bluey trip. And so that's what kind of spawned and sparked all this stuff. But I was going to Australia multiple times before that, like probably gone at least 10 times. And that's why my friend asked me, she's like, you know all about it. If I want to see wine and spa and reef, like what do I do? And we have 12 days. I'm like, okay, let's make an itinerary. So I love doing that for people. I love Australia, and like happy to guide you in whatever you're vibing. But Hamilton is a very user-friendly version.
This is really great.
Yeah.
And this is so funny that we're paired. And this is all Teddy. Teddy figured this one out. So I just got back from Australia.
Oh, you did?
On my 11th trip.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he probably knew that we had the same number of trips.
No
or something.
way.
Anyway, it's but I have not done the Great Barrier Reef.
You haven't?
I've been all over, done sound recording work all over Australia in the national parks, recording the sounds of birds.
Whoa.
For over, for about 8 years of that. And then I wrote a book about the Simpson Desert, and I went out with 12 scientists, and I lived in the
In Perth?
No, in the Simpson Desert, kind of near Longreach, going out that way in the outback in Queensland.
Whoa,
So I was way out there in the red sand country
oh my gosh.
and got to see things like the thorn devil and,
Yeah.
emus running around and.
So she
It's-
did land country, I did sea
So
country.
I'm land person, national parks, and Tasmania is where I just went hiking for 2 weeks, and it was an incredible place to
Oh my
visit
God.
Tasmania, so. So we're happy to talk
So
about
yes.
Australia. If you see us anywhere in the next 3 days, it's like a second home for me, really.
I love it, yeah, funny side story, I was in Cairns for 6 weeks because I got stuck with COVID in March 2020.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we actually really got to explore a lot because everything was shut down, so we just went over to the gorges, went over to like hiking and, just kind of working remote, and, what a weird time that was. It was all the airlines were empty, like, it took like 6 weeks to get home, but it was beautiful, I was stoked.
Not a bad place to get stuck. More questions? Any more questions about her beautiful film? So interesting and.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I was just wondering if you could speak to your other film that you mentioned about plastic.
Oh, yeah.
Anti-plastic.
So I did another film, it was a feature-length film called Plastic Paradise, The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It was shot from 2009 through 2013, it premiered 2013, and then I did a whole festival run, and then it went on Participant Media's Pivot TV, and then I went on to Netflix for 2 years, and then Nat Geo in Europe, and then also.
Congratulations, let's
Thank
give a
you.
round of applause for that, that's really cool.
Thank you. So that kind of led me into this independent filmmaking, but my background is actually in sports journalism and in news. So I come from more of a broadcast journalist background, but I just felt like these stories that weren't being told by the network or we weren't getting greenlit, I was like, I just gotta tell the story. So the plastics thing I've been talking about, I know everyone's talking about the plastic new movie that's popped out too about microplastics in your body, but I've been talking about it since, 2008 or whatever.
Wow.
And so I wanted to create a series, like an Oceans 911 or Oceans Awareness series, and Plastic Paradise was gonna be the first one, Coral was gonna be part of it, and then different, ocean issues. I did pitch it around, didn't get any bites, cause, they're like, oh, it's too, like, heady, or it's too, but again, things have changed a lot. I think there's definitely different venues and ways to share, and but from the network TV side, that's what happened. But that's why you kind of just do your own, and you kind of put it out there, and it's amazing that people are wanting to watch it or receive it. So thank you for receiving it.
That's fantastic though, that it went so far, that the plastic, I think I've actually seen that at some
Maybe.
point, but now I wanna watch it again, because we
Yeah.
need to all be aware of that.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to stop plastic, really, it should have never, hate to say it, probably should have never been invented.
Yeah, well, it's
And-
invented for war, but
I mean, there are great uses for plastic, but we use so much of it, where we could be using other materials to,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to the, again, native knowledge and how they use the land and how they use packaging and stuff too. But yeah, Leighton, do you have a question?
I do. You had such a short window to shoot. Can you talk about your prep work and then the post? Because that was a very full movie, and it's surprising you had such a short amount of time to shoot it.
I had a very short amount of time to shoot, very short amount of time to prep. A lot of late nights because it was like Australian days. So I was like making phone calls at like 1 a.m. or whatever to people, trying to get connected to nonprofits. Like, I think the best thing for like filmmakers who might be wanting to do stuff is, just reaching out to nonprofits and organizations that leads you the trail, right, to like leading to the other people, and the other people then kind of, I had some, help, like one of our producers, Lisa, like knew a lot of the different people to reach out to and start with. And then Abby, I actually just happened upon, because she was there for this Reef Recruits cohort of First Nations, or First Nations owners, or traditional owners, to come and partake, and she was just this marine science student who's now graduated. So like you kind of never know who you're going to end up with, and the person I was supposed to interview didn't show up because she was out at the coral spawn at a different reef, and it was supposed to be a lot of different iterations, but you know, that's documentary. It kind of is always changing until you actually lock picture or lock production, and then post. That's where I felt like a lot of movies come to life is post, because how do you craft this story? You have like tons of footage. What do you do? I didn't actually have a ton of footage, so I really leaned on Phil and his found footage that he's already shot, and then I basically wrote the script, and then had the script, you know, kind of pieced together, like storyboarded out, like how I would want it to look, and then trying to look through either archival, like with the news clips, or research, and then also you gotta clear with legal and all that stuff. So it's like so many different iterations and aspects that every filmmaker knows every single second of their film, and like the credit rules, like everybody knows every single person and what they did, and how much of a village it takes to create anything really, but to create a film. That's, you know, my friend, the composer, she did all the original score on it, and I kind of just gave her the cut of like, hey, go to town, and she's this amazing composer, Sarah, and she has scored a lot of different things, but I don't think she had scored a doc, like an environmental doc before, but like she just did this beautiful like journey for us, and so grateful for that too, and yeah, it just takes a village, so yeah, there's a lot of people involved.
The audio was really powerful.
Oh, thank you. I will tell her that. She was bummed because she wanted to come, and she was at another event today, but yeah.
And I thought it really complimented all of the scenes, and I loved your drone shot too, by the way. The look, you know, the aerial
lagoon,
views,
yeah.
lagoon,
Yeah,
beautiful
that was
one.
all Phil.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and Phil and his team are amazing, small team up in Cairns, but yeah.
Other questions? Well, what a wonderful, 3
Thank
films
you.
session.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
so
you,
glad to
Debbie.
share it with you. And in the back, any questions at the back? Now's your chance, especially about Australia or Alaska, either way.
I wanna go to Alaska. I'm like, I wanna go
Yes,
to those
yeah.
things.
Yes, any lessons that you learned by being surrounded by nature? Like, what's the
Oh, that's a good
most
one.
important
Oh, yeah. Is this for both of us?
Yes, please.
I'm happy to say that I've spent the last 40 years writing nature books for children and adults, all fueled by living in Alaska. So it's been my sole inspiration
That is
for all my work
amazing.
for 40 years. So, yeah, I'm a writer. I'll always be a writer, and I can't go out anywhere in Alaska and not find story. And you mentioned
Wow.
storyboard.
Yes.
I do a lot of storyboarding as well
Mhm.
for my children's books, where I draft a manuscript, and I basically cut it up, and I envision the scenes of where the words are going to go, and kind of think of it as a storyboard, even though the artist does the real true storyboarding.
Yeah.
But as a writer, I do it as well, because I'm thinking of the artist and thinking about the scenes and where do I want my words. So there's a lot that goes into that process of writing and working with an illustrator.
Amazing.
So,
Wow.
and then you, nature?
Oh, I just think I've always wanted, like, I've loved the ocean. I watched like Voyage of the Mimi with Ben Affleck on it, like back in the day, like PBS documentaries, Jacques Cousteau documentaries, like that opened the world of underwater, which was this super cool, unique alien world. And so I love sharing those stories, because I know a lot of people don't have the chance to go underwater and see that. And so, you know, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, right? And the cool microscopic things that he showed, oh my gosh, the macro was so cool on the Sitka.
That was amazing, the diatoms.
I was like, what? But it's beautiful, it's like this alien world, and so I feel like there's so much of nature, but I think nature inspires all of us to do what we do or protect what we love, right? So it's really cool that there's so many people here to share that too. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
It is kind of a driving force. I think you grow to love and cherish nature. If you're a writer or you're a filmmaker, you're inspired to tell the story, whatever that is, about that natural part of the world that you adore. And at the same time, you wanna, as you love it and cherish it, you wanna protect it. So you wanna get the message out that this is special. Like diatoms are
Yeah.
really special,
Yeah.
right? Without them, we wouldn't have
algae.
an algae and plankton and all, I mean, what Ben caught on camera, like you say, 400 times, seeing these things under a microscope.
Yeah.
But this is the real world. This is the nature that sustains all of us, going right down to the microscopic little diatoms. And I think that drives us, you know,
Well, it drives activism, but I think education and information is really where we start, right? So having that first, and then that kind of fuels the passion to protect and preserve.
and wonder and curiosity
And
are
wonder,
also really big,
Yes.
because if you don't have the curiosity or the wonder, then, I think I turned it off, Salmon.
Oh.
There we go, I just turned it off. I think the curiosity and the wonder always, oh, they're cutting us off, cause it's 5 o'clock.
Oh.
Okay, no, 7 o'clock.
Yes,
Oh,
we're
it's
cut
7
off.
o'clock.
We're cut off.
We're cut off.
No more
I think they're
drinks.
saying, okay, we're talking too long.
Drinks in the lounge.
Thank you,
Drinks in
everybody.
the lounge.
Lounge
Thank you.
time. Yes, the lounge is, you can get drinks at the concession and go up to the lovely lounge to chat. This is so fun.
Thank you.
I have to thank Teddy for putting
my
these
gosh,
three together with
yes.
such good films.
That was so great, thank you.
Very fun.